1年前的这个时候，我跟 Nick 开始制作了 podcast。那1年前的这个时候，我们也决定制作一系列有关职场面试的主题。今天我想要回顾一下这个非常重要也具有挑战的技巧，我们也做了一些更新，提供大家更多实用的片语。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管双语沟通力的 podcast。我们希望带给大家最实用的沟通工具，包括了成功人士对全球市场的分享、职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus. As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, Deloitte, and Yahoo.And
I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality.I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and train the executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage.
Welcome to the Executive Plus podcast,
where you can take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everyone, welcome back to an Executive Plus podcast episode.About a year ago, Sherry and I put together a 4-part interview series.An interview series that a lot of people still go back and listen to. Well, today we want to take the key lessons from that series and lay them out in a little more detail and with a little bit refinement that we've learned over the year.
没错，大概在去年在第2集到第6集单元的都是我们的 interview series。那在那个 series 呢，因为我们是刚开始做 podcast， 所以我们也不太确定到底一集大概多久的时间是大家最能接受的。那当然现在1年过后，我们非常有经验之后呢，现在还是蛮多人回去听的这几个单元，把它稍微再整理一下，然后更新，提供给大家更多实用的片语。
So we want to kick off today by discussing an important tool that you can use when answering behavioral interview questions. So most often when looking at a top management position, they're going to hit you with 2 types of questions. One is hard skill based on your expertise or knowledge. The other is going to be behavior, looking at your leadership skills, your time management skills, stress management skills, etc.And we want to give you a quick tool that you can use and follow in order to answer these behavioral type questions, and it's called STAR.
那当然在我们的 interview 当中，我们通常会被问到2种问题，一个是你问你的硬实力跟软实力，所以今天我们就来 focus 在如何回答这些软实力，也就是 behavioral 行为的这些问题中。那我们就会用到了 STAR 的原则，也就是 STAR.
So STAR is a simple acronym that you can follow. S standing for situation, T task, A action, and R result.
所以 STAR S situation 就是情景，再来 task 任务，再来是 action 也就是行动，最后呢 result 就是我们的结果。So let's start with the situation, 也就是情景。
When setting out your example, showing a behavioral skill, it's important to set the context so that someone has a reference of what's going on. So this is the purpose of situation. Basically is describe the event or situation that you were in and what was happening at that time.
所以这个部分呢，我们就是要描述一下我们在这个之前的一个工作岗位或者这个情况当中一些背景一些 information， 也就是做给我们 interview 我们的人做给他们来参考用。
So phrases that you would use to describe situation may begin with a quick summarization of what's happening. Or here's a quick overview of the situation.
Or you can definitely say, for one particular project, right? 你有个很具体一个 specific 的一个情况，你可以提出来。Or you can simply say, a few years ago, just a few weeks ago, or I had to deal with a client that.
The place that I like to take inspiration from is stand-up comedians. If you've ever spent a lot of time watching them, almost every joke always starts with a situation. Oh, last week I was talking to my buddy. Or in the news last year, this thing happened. And they're always setting a context to get into the story of their joke.
所以很快速的能够把人家带进这个故事当中，带进这个情况当中。所以其实你也可以把这个 STAR 想成你来说故事的一个原则。
So, as an example, if you were in an interview and they said, "Tell me about a time that you had to learn quickly," you would set out the situation using something like this. Here's a quick overview of my last situation. In my last position as a consultant, my clients came from a wide range of medtech backgrounds.
所以现在我们简单的描述了这个情况的一些背景的时候，这个时候我们就可以进入了 task， 也就是来形容我们应该做的任务是什么。
So within task, it's actually quite important to separate it from situation. If situation is the context, task is the actual thing that you need to complete. So tasks would just be, what were you asked to do? What was the assignment that you were given? And ways that you can begin talking about tasks could be that simple. I was asked to. I was assigned to. Or my supervisor asked me to.
And of course, you can definitely say, what I was supposed to do was, and in this situation, my responsibility was, and for this particular task, I was told to. 所以这个地方还是要小心一点，就是这个我们要跟接下来的 action 要有所区分。那 task, again, 它是 what were you asked to do? 你本来的任务是什么？它可能不是你实际做的什么事，什么样子的 action, 什么样的行動。So make sure you set a distinction.
To continue our example from previously about a time that we had to learn quickly, and I set a context of I was a consultant who had to work with medtech companies. I would continue my story with, for each client, I was assigned to create an industry research report. Since we would send a detailed proposal within a week of the initial meeting, it meant we needed to move very fast and have a strong grasp of the industry quickly.
那好了，现在我们有 situation， 我们也了解到了当时我们应该要做什么样的 task， 接下来就是很重要的就是我们的行动 our action. What do we actually do in that situation?
And it's important you'll see that action is actually the third step. Reason being is a lot of people jump straight into action, but without setting a clear context or a task challenge that you need to overcome. So people are missing that context. By putting your action third, you can actually describe what you've done, how you're tackling the problem, or how you're overcoming a challenge, and everyone will know where you're coming from. Tasks are simply laid out as, what's the action you took? What did you do? And talking about your task can simply begin with, I took charge and, or I decided that.
你也可以说 I made a decision to, or I leaped into action and. 所以如果我们把这一些片语用进去我们的 answer 的时候，一样我们延续用同样的问题。Here is what we can say. Initially, this work took dozens of hours of overtime. However, I decided that it was important to create a template and specific methodology for researching. Over a weekend, I developed a detailed process to optimize research and formulate a report.
Now that you have your context, your situation and task, and also your action laid out, it's time to get to the result. So, with the result is simply, what's the outcome of your efforts? What was the result of what you have done? And this can be laid out quite simply with, and it turned out spectacularly, or turned out wonderfully. Another phrase, to my surprise, and to everyone's surprise, we reached.
那当然在这个时候你的 result 不一定要是正面的，它可能是并没有达到什么，或者是 it was a failure. That's completely okay. 但是你这个时候一定要去解释你得到了什么，你学到了什么。So you can say, unfortunately, we weren't able to. 那你接着说 however, I learned something valuable, and then you explain what you've learned.
Now, if you also want to create a little bit of suspense, you can start that with, I bet you would like to know what happened in the end, and then get into the result. Finally, if you just want a very simple formula or phrase to describe what's going on, you could just say, the biggest takeaway from this experience was that.
So again, 如果我们把我们学到的这些片语放进去我们的答案当中， it would sound like I successfully refined that process over months, and now industry reports take no more than an afternoon to produce. We always have the key information needed to speak on a professional level with the clients and secured the contract.
Now that we've taken you through the STAR, we hope that you can start to see how these phrases help you to build a longer story, and that story can come together through our example.In the next episode, we're actually going to tackle the most common management-level interview questions and show you in more detail how you can apply STAR to answering these type of questions.
没错，所以在下一个单元我们会利用一些特别热门的这样子 behavioral questions， 然后我们利用 STAR 的原则让大家能够听得到到底我们要怎么用 STAR 来设计我们的答案或者来回答我们这个问题。So 所有的 information 都在我们讲义当中 So don't forget to check out our handouts if you really want to read something. And yeah, everything's going to be there.
Join us for our next episode and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
如果你喜欢我们的 podcast， 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook。那也可以写信到我们的信箱 yourcareerplus@gmail.com。